Hello, I'm Derek, and today we're going to be doing a little something different with our tutorial videos. Right now we're just going to go over all the customization options in each window and how to add buttons for increased functionality in each window. So as you can see, right now I am in the main window. This is what pops up when you first start up SolidFace. So I'm going to be going from left to right through our three sub-windows, which would be New Drawing, New Part, and New Assembly. So right now let's go through New Drawing. Alright, so here we are. This is our drawing window. It looks a lot like a sketch window if you've seen any of the previous videos that we've created. It's got line and sketch tools, pattern and movement tools, and then dimension tools. So there's a lot that we can do here. And I'd like to start out by going over the buttons on top. So if we have an offset tool, trim tool, join extend, fillet, chamfer, line partial erase, rectangle line, and so on and so forth, right? So what if we find ourselves using a certain button a lot, or maybe we find ourselves not using a button at all? So if you wanted to add a button or go through all the different possible buttons that are available to you in this window, what you can do is to the right of the rightmost button in this space right about here where my cursor is, you can right click on that and that will open up this window right here, in which you can choose from all the available windows, which is File, Build, Modify, Operate, Dimension, Variable, Part, Utilities, and then the All button just lists them all out for you if you want to scroll through and see what's available. Now you might notice that it's pretty similar to these buttons up here, with the exception of the Edit button. But we have File, Build, Modify, Operate, Dimension, Group. So for here we have we don't have group, we just have variable, and then part and utilities. So let's go through dimension. Dimension's an incredibly useful tool that allows you to give specifics to your parts. So even though SolidFace is a parametric modeler that allows you to make changes to your part or your drawing as you go without any need for specifics, I find that helpful to dimension parts that are critical. So like if I'm going to be 3D printing something, for instance, I would like to make sure that the part is going to fit whatever I tend to 3D print, like say a case for a set of calipers. I'm going to 3D print that, I need to give it an actual size relative to everything. So let's go to the dimension. Let's go ahead and click on that, and we can see that there's a bunch of different types of dimension or text editing tools here that we don't have access to up here. We only have the 4 buttons available, which is text, line dimension, point dimension, and a dimension. But we have text, multiple text, or text with a almost like a smaller font, like an exponent in an equation. Edit text, line dimension, point dimension, 2 points dimension, so that's a very useful way to measure things. Any dimension, which we do have up here. Text plus indicator, so if you want to indicate some type of geometric design and tolerancing feature, you can use the text plus indicator button to do that. Extend, which allows you to move dimensions around. Scale, edit dimension, text, and general scale. So let's go ahead and throw 2 points dimension on there, and we'll just hit OK. And as you can see, now I have 2 points dimension up here, right here, to the right of Operate Groups, which is my rightmost button. So I can also if I want another one, I click another menu, right? Pretty cool. Okay. So that's how you would add buttons here. So there's another thing I want to go over in terms of customization or creating and using the software to your preference I should say customizing the software to your preference, is up here under the Utilities tab. We have Configuration Properties, and then we have Dimensions, Attributes, Colors, Personalize, Line Selection Type. So the most important one out of here will be the Colors and Personalize buttons. So let's go to Colors. So as you can see, this is the color scheme that I have set for all the things that I'll be doing. And this will change for each window between your part, assembly, and drawing windows. This will change. So I've changed mine to be similar, or to all be the same through the three, just to kind of keep it uniform, and so that I don't get used to selecting one type of feature or looking at one color in my part window, but it looks different in my assembly window. But you can try white background, black colors. You can see it changes that. So if I hit apply configuration, screen gets very bright. That could be very straining to the eye, so I prefer a black background. If I hit apply configuration, that brings it up. And then you can also, right here where it says default of new drawings, you can hit save, and whenever you open up the drawings window, this color pattern will pop up. So I prefer to have it like this, and then I don't have to change it every time. You can also, like if I want my shading plus line edge, I'm going to go down here to color of selected entities. I'm going to, let's say I want it to be this color right here, this kind of like a purplish pink color. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit OK, save, and OK. And now that is saved in this window. So the other one is Personalize. Personalize looks a lot like the button menu that came up earlier. The button menu that came up earlier that allowed us to change our toolbar layout at the top here, but there's a little bit more functionality to it. So if you take or if you remove or add buttons to the top here, you can save that as a certain configuration. So pattern 1, pattern 2, or system default. So if I say system default, I hit OK, you can see it removes the button that we put in there earlier. So I'm going to go back to Utilities, Configuration Properties, and Personalize. Right. And back to Toolbars. This is also, you can also change the size of the text. I prefer to keep it at 100. I find that when I change it, things tend to start disappearing or appearing where I don't mean for them to. So 100% there is fine. Functions, a lot of these functions I've changed. So I have automatic repetition activated. So for instance, if I'm creating a line and I have automatic repetition, I can click the start point, end point in the line, and the line tool remains active for me to start another line with. And then I can use my auto cursor down here to select line endpoint to attach to the last line that I was using. So I have that turned on. Confirmation before deleting last command, I always have that one turned on. I believe that one's actually default. And if you decide to delete something or a body or a function that you've done with your model or your drawing or what have you, it will ask for confirmation instead of just deleting it. So sometimes, we get in a little bit of a hurry. We forget what we're doing and we just right click and then, oh, whoops, you accidentally hit delete instead of move command. So, this helps avoid that. Button help, that's scrolling over the buttons and seeing what they mean. Text parameters with special color, I don't find a use for that one really. So on and so forth, right? And then file commands. This one's more for saving and managing your files, which we'll go over a little bit later about the different types of files and saving and naming them and naming conventions and whatnot. So open file is just open last saved file. So if you wanted to quickly open up the file you were working on a day before, perhaps you can do that. You can also open it in the last orientation that you saw, which could be helpful. For the most part, I don't find it useful. I just open up things in their default view, which is isometric, and it works for me. You can change the drawings with the parametric name, save drawing with consistency, so on and so forth. And then if we go over here to general, we can visualize 2D model by thickness, group, thickness plus list color group. I've kept it default. I haven't really found a use for group, although I'm sure it would be useful. Cursor type, standard, cross, extended, and extended. So cross extended or plus extended keeps your standard cursor, which you see me using now, plus what looks like a really large set of crosshairs that follow the cursor around. I'll show you what that looks like real quick. So as you can see, it's basically like me dragging the origin point around with me without actually dragging the origin point. So you can do that if you wish. I don't like it. And then extended is just the crosshairs that you saw earlier. I like standard. Circle and spline resolution, so that determines how blocky or how smooth your circles look. That really kind of depends on your graphics processor. If you have a higher power one, or really a decent standalone graphics card, you can set that to maximum and not really suffer any ill effects. But if you're working on, let's say, a laptop because you want to work from a different place, or you don't have a desktop with a dedicated graphics card, you can just set that to standard and it'll work just fine for you. A couple other options here. For the most part, I leave all of these standard. CAD Cam Link is one to take note of if you're using some other type of CAM software, which is computer aided manufacturing. You can select one of these three down here to export that to it. I'm going to go ahead and I believe I've gone over. Shortcuts. Shortcuts is a good window. So here, what you can do is for functions that you find yourself either hunting a lot of time for or that you use quite often, you can actually create a quick or a hotkey. Excuse me, a hotkey. So let's say line dimension. I use line dimension a lot. It's got a button on the keyboard. I might do Control plus D. How about that? All right. So now if I hit the Control D button, I can use I can create a dimension quickly. So I'm gonna go ahead and create that real quick. And if I hit Control D, all right. So now alright. So I'm having a little bit of trouble there. I might have screwed it up. But personalize, shortcuts. Oh, I didn't hit the OK button. Whoops. That would do it, huh? D and OK. Alright. There. Oh. Alright. Well, you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and skip that for time purposes. I'm going to go ahead and go to I'm going to close this. I'm going to say no to this. And I'm going to open up the part window and we'll go through that one, which for the most part has a lot of the same commands, but the part modifying commands or solid modifying commands that you see up here, they have a few different options for those. So if I'm going to right click up on this button, it'll go into it. You can see it's a little bit smaller. That being because in the part modeling window, you're not worried about necessarily creating a PDF or a print blueprint of your part. You're solely worried about building it. So it's a little bit more streamlined towards that purpose. So let's look at the features button. So it looks like we have all of these features on there. We have, oh, you know what? We don't have one that's readily out that I see here, and that is the scale button. So if I wanted to scale my part up or down, I could use that. So I'm going to go ahead and select scale and hit OK. And now we can see that button is available. So this one is similar in its utilities. It has a little bit simpler of a menu. It's got just colors and personalize, whereas the other one had a few more like variable and whatnot. So this one also has the 3D box, which allows you to visualize your 3D part a little bit better. So you can have feature property, use spacebar, create a sketch. That's very useful for starting quickly, just to really streamline things. The only downside to it is that sometimes when you're typing, you have a tendency to fat finger it, or if you are using a mouse pad on a laptop, you might accidentally fat finger it and start a sketch and you don't mean to. File, it's much the same, and then general is also the exact same. So, and then the shortcuts window or shortcuts menu is also smaller because of the more streamlined interface of the part window. So I'm going to hit OK and back out of that. You can also access that same utility configuration menu by right here. This gear icon that says General Configuration, and it will bring you dimensions of text. That's if you want to use a certain scale of your dimension versus your part, or the size or height of your dimension text, as well as changing a bunch of other types of dimensions for it. So you can change the font if you want to change it to something other than Arial. Visualization, you can see here with these pictures what variable you're changing with your numeric input here. So I leave all this blank for the most part. It's kind of an industry standard that it's been set to. So I leave it blank, but if you have a hard time seeing it or you want bigger or smaller dimensions, you can do that from this window. So I believe that is, for the most part, everything that you realistically need to do. The only other part that I would like you to take note of in the general configuration button is the working unit button, which allows you to change between millimeter, centimeter, meter, inch, and foot. So I have mine set in inches because that's the unit that I deal with the most, and that's the part that I recommend you set yours to. If you're using the software and you want to 3D print, I know for the most part a large amount of consumer 3D printers advertise their build area in millimeters, and it might be beneficial for you to select millimeters as your working unit to kind of help with dimensioning things that will fit inside your 3D printer if you're using for, let's say, your home business or your shop that you want a rapid prototype with. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to these videos if you want to stay in the know. Thank you.